you will have some appreciation for what that was all about. Civilian Conservation Corps. You are in a beautiful green meadow. It's green because of the Park Service and because of that kind of labor. You drive to Parkway, it's beautiful, but again, because of conservation. That's the intent. Now, Pete did what many of us did. Pete went off to war, and somebody had to keep the home fires burning. Many people don't know who it was who kept the home fires burning. There is, and there are among us right now, a group of men who came and replaced the CCC boys, who did a marvelous job of keeping the home fires going while fighting the local fires. These were called the Civilian Public Service Camps. Many of you know them as conscientious objectors. They came from all over the nation, from all walks of life, but they came to the Parkway. A camp up at Buck Springs up in North Carolina, a camp down at Bedford, and down at Galax. But every one of these men came because they were determined, they were absolutely determined to do something positive for their nation, though they did not and would not go to war. To speak on their behalf, a man has flown up from Florida, a man who knows them well because he's one of them. My delight to share with you a man who has been there and now has come to us to share. And it's a delight to share with you Mr. Gordon Forster, speaking on behalf of civilian public servicemen.
Thank you, Dr. Jolly. It's a great pleasure to be here. I guess about the last thing North Carolina needs is somebody else from Florida. The Miami Herald last week interviewed a lady from Franklin and said she'd be mighty happy if about 98% of the Floridian flatlanders would move back and leave the state to the people who own it. However, you can tell we got good taste because when all you can see is palm trees and it's about 95 degrees and you're sweltering down in Miami, everybody simply moves up here. CPS camps held something like from Roanoke over to Gatlinburg, I would guess 2,000 men in a period during the war from 1940 to 1946. And many of the people here today that were with me and CPS were down at Buck Creek, just below Buck Creek Gap. What we did was fight fires along the total length of the Parkway, which then extended to Mount Mitchell. We did what we called euphemistically twigging on the Parkway right-of-way. That's really manicuring the Parkway. Every time a limb fell or something, we had to run out and pick it up before the next tourist drove along. And I couldn't appreciate that at that time, but as I drove along the Parkway this morning for about 20 miles, I can see how beautiful and absolutely gorgeously manicured it was, and now I believe that we were doing something that made sense. The other thing we did was start construction on Crabtree Meadows Recreation Center, and that was our major project. Our camp at Buck Creek moved over to Gatlinburg after about 2 years, and we essentially kept the national park and the Smoky Mountains going with a main camp at Gatlinburg and 3 or 4 side camps throughout the park for a period of 3 years until the war was over. It's a real pleasure for me to represent this group, and I think all of us take great pride in being part of the alumni of this magnificent project that we know all of America is privileged to enjoy. I'd like to ask the fellows who are here from CPS to stand up before I quit. Would you do that, please? I'd just like to point out there's been a lot of expression about characters have always been associated with the Parkway development. I want you to know that for 6 years we had a corner on the character market in CPS camps, and we really had a bunch of individuals and a bunch of characters representing about 50 or 60 religious denominations in the country, primarily sponsored a combination of administrative operation with selective service system and the historic peace churches. Our camps were run by the American Friends Service Committee representing the Quakers, and the camps in Virginia were operated by the Church of the Brethren with selective service system and the Mennonite Central Committee. Thank you.
I hope that you are seeing what a great diversity of men have touched this parkway, but they too were touched. And these are classic examples of the touch. I want to go to another direction. Somebody has to run the show. And I want to bring those people to the platform and let you see some of their viewpoints. The first one will be a Georgia boy who went to the engineering portion, from that to the financial portion, and wound up on the Parkway doing many things. Today, the man who has in his mind more knowledge about the Blue Ridge Parkway than any living individual is your speaker. The first superintendent of the Blue Ridge Parkway with that title. His name, Mr. Sam P. Weems. Mr. Weems.
Thank you, Dr. Jolly. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Since all that I was going to speak has already been said, I guess I can tear my speech up. We can save you most of your 5 minutes, Silverhot. But I do have a few remarks that I'd like to make. It's hard for me to believe that 50 years ago today, right down the road here, that I stood in front of Pac Murphy's little red brick house and saw the contractor unload the equipment to start the Blue Ridge Parkway. A road, the longest in the world ever designed, built, and operated exclusively for pleasure. Well, it's true that it was 50 years ago today. You've already been told about how this idea got started at a meeting on the Skyland Drive in the early 1930s, where Franklin Roosevelt, President Harry Byrd Sr., attended a picnic there on the Skyland Drive to celebrate the initial installation of CCC camps in that area. Weren't we fortunate to have Harry Byrd Jr. here today, he and Roosevelt Jr., to tell us about their early recollections of their father's accomplishments. I think we're very fortunate to have had them here today. Now, the idea having been born in the early 30s, of course, it had to be carried out. And with all the agencies that have been, most of them have already been mentioned here, it took a lot of cooperation from government, state, and local communities to cooperate in getting this wonderful project going. And we received that cooperation very willingly and very efficiently. And the millions of visitors today are enjoying the results of carrying out this idea. The objective, of course, as has already been said, was to connect Shenandoah and the Great Smoky Mountain. I used to playfully tell the superintendents of those areas in the lower days that they were going to be the prime recreation areas along the Parkway, Shenandoah and the Great Smokies. Of course, I didn't get very far with that one. Well, I don't have a great deal that I can say that hadn't already been said. But I do say this, that I am very pleased to be here today and to see so many of my old associates and acquaintances, people that I worked with over the many years. And I'm proud of the small contribution that I have made to this Blue Ridge Parkway. I'm very happy to be here today. And as a matter of fact, after all these years, I'm happy to be anywhere today.
Mr. Sam P. Weems, how can I say it? He's a man of understatement. He says his little accomplishment is only 469 miles, and we're proud of you. I'm likewise proud of the fact that there have been just a few superintendents on the Parkway. This man spanned years, and on this platform right here are all the men who ever served as superintendent except one, Mr. Jim Eden, who's deceased. But I want to mention each of these represent a success story. The next man coming to you is a success story. A Carolina boy coming in a time of the Depression, looking for opportunity. He found it right here. Found it first working with the CCC and all the way up to Ranger, and then finally came back as superintendent, one of the all-time career men in the National Park Service. We know him as Granny, Mr. Granville Lyles, former superintendent.
Thank you, Dr. Jolly. I'm like Sam. I'm proud to be here today. I'm proud to be alive. It is a beautiful day, and I've seen a lot of friends today and people that I've worked with through the years. And if I say anything, I want to pay a tribute to the many people that have worked. I see sons and daughters of pioneers like the Browning family, and the wife and son and daughters of Stan Abbott. I've seen friends today who worked here with me nearly 45 years ago when we did the landscaping before Mr. Weems gave me a job as a ranger, to whom I owe my earliest debt for my career in the Park Service. Sam gave me my first job, and I think, as Pete Cullen said, Sam taught us how to work, taught us how to be serious, and that helped me in my career. So I'm proud to be here. I'm proud to have been a part of the Parkway. I do and have seen a lot of friends today who have lost their wives. Some of them have lost their husbands. Some have lost their brothers that gave their life to the Parkway, and I certainly would want to pay tribute to them. I think that we ought to look ahead. I would love to see in the future, Gary, I'd like to see the Parkway have its headquarters. We're like gypsies. We were in Roanoke one time, now we're in Asheville, and I don't know when they're going to evict you from the Northwestern Bank building, but the Parkway needs a headquarters, and a lot of things need to be done now in the next few years that the planners and engineers can do. And when we came down the Parkway yesterday and today, it was beautiful. I think the Parkway is more beautiful than it's ever been, and I think we owe a hand of appreciation to Superintendent Everhart and his staff and all of his maintenance crew. The Parkway is as beautiful as I've ever seen it, and I think the tradition that began under Stan Abbott and Ed Abule is being carried on in a wonderful fashion, and I'm grateful to be here with you, and I'm proud to have served in the Park Service all of my life, and I'm more proud that I came back here as superintendent. So it's getting warm. It's been a wonderful day, and happy birthday to everybody.
Granville Lyles, I think the personification of the politician. Sam Weems, I think, must have written a book on politicking. Without their politicking, there'd been no Parkway in reality. These men made a contribution. But somebody's got to carry on. They do the footwork, they do all the necessary juggling, but somebody's got to carry on. In this case, a man from Georgia currently came in right behind them and built again, made his mark on the Parkway. I'm delighted to share with you also a former superintendent, Mr. Joe Brown.
Everybody's telling me to make it short. and that I will do. But I am also pleased to be here, and it would be difficult for me to go ahead with all of this when the dean of the superintendents, my elder, cut it down to about 2 minutes, and then the next elder to me cut it down to about 1 minute. So that means I'll have to cut it shorter. But what I'd like to say is, I think the word was cooperation. It was brought up a jillion times here all day long, and that to me has always been the hallmark, I guess, of trying to work here on the Blue Ridge Parkway. I couldn't have got out of line if I wanted. Bob Hope sitting back there kept me straight every time I ventured off of whatever was on the plans in the initial days. Bob pulled me right on back. But I think the thing I would like to leave you with is the fact that each superintendent, as they left office and went on to other things or retirement, always left something for the next man to do. Although every one of us always felt that we couldn't retire, we couldn't leave the park because we didn't want to leave until we completed it. But this park is one that will go on forever. There are never going to be an end to doing fine things for it. When I left, when Granville left the park, he left me with two major things to try to accomplish. One, and I see it around here, was to pick up where he left off in establishing a folk art center in Asheville, North Carolina. This we were able to do. We had the privilege at that time of Vice President Mondale's wife to groundbreak, and then Gary had the opportunity to bring it to its completion, and I think today it's one of the successes on the Parkway. The other project they left me with to do, along with some other minor details, was to continue working on trying to get funding for the missing link. That's that little stretch of 2.6 or 2.2, it all depends on what engineer you're speaking with, around a place called Grandfather Mountain. That was quite an interesting assignment because the right-of-way didn't follow the normal patterns that you followed along most of the parkway. We had some geology formations that were rather difficult to get through, and again we wanted to follow the guidelines of our originators and not to spoil the area in any way possible. So again, with this word cooperation, we worked with the Denver Service Center, we worked with the Public Highway Administration, and soon, I hope within 2 years, you will be able to see the beautiful Lynn Cove Viaduct. This is what I'm passing on to, I passed on to Gary Everhart, along with some other minor details, and Gary is bringing it to its completion, and I'm looking forward to being here, Gary, in 2 years to help you celebrate the opening of that road. So with that, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You're all distinguished guests.
In the audience, there sit many lovely ladies, but I want two of those lovely ladies to come forward. And Robert, if you bring those two forward, I'd appreciate it. Mr. Robert Browning. I'm asking them to take a walk because their daddy did. Robert is the son. We talk about R. Getty Browning, who walked every foot of this way to help locate it and became the right-of-way engineer personification of it. But thanks to him, we have that parkway. These are his family. His son Robert carries on, his daughter married to a doctor, and this is the sort of thing that is the legacy. But do know, thanks to the work of R. Getty Browning, North Carolina got that parkway, and Tennessee didn't. And thanks to that man, the parkway got the beauty, got the land, and North Carolina is the beneficiary. We are deeply indebted to that good Browning blood. Thank you. Anywhere out there, is there some Dalton blood? Robert L. Dalton was the congressman from this territory who said one thing as the parkway's getting going. He said, I want to adopt it. I want to bring it. I want to share it. He did with great glee and great joy. Result is we have it. We have his Dalton Park. But back to our superintendents. Now, deliberately interrupted because the next man is going to build on all of these. The next man is the current occupant of the seat. A local boy in the fullest sense of the word from Lenore, North Carolina, all the way up the ranks, all the way to the very top, and wound up with the finest assignment any man could have, superintendent of the Blue Ridge Parkway. The current occupant of the seat, Gary Everhart. Mr. Everhart. Thank you, Harley. There was a reason for that 5-minute limitation, folks. That was so I could have 15. But I understand, and it is getting late. It's been a long day for all of us. It's been a day that we can all be proud of, we can all be happy with, and I'm going to try to be very brief. It is an honor and it's a great privilege to share this platform today with these people. Sitting here is 32 years of superintendence of the Blue Ridge Parkway, and you've heard about 50 years of building a park reality for all the ages. I'd like to take and introduce some ladies that are here, because these gentlemen and myself certainly would not be the success that we haven't been if it hadn't have been for some ladies. And Helen Abbott Fowler is back there, and I'd like to ask her to come forth. Sarah Weems, I think, is over here somewhere. Mary Lyles is here. And Nancy Everhart is here somewhere. And we're sorry that Joe Brown's good wife is not here with us. But these ladies, if they would take a walk and come forward so that we could say our thanks to them, Mr. Superintendents, for standing with us and helping us along the way so that we could do our job here on the Blue Ridge Parkway and for the National Park Service. Thank you, ladies. I have, and I rather should say that you have, much to be proud and thankful for today. We certainly want to be thankful for this great day, this beautiful day. The weather held for us, and so we have another one in the record book, Mr. Ryan. But we want to thank the concessioners, Garner Hansen, for providing that food. We want to thank the craftspeople that came out here and demonstrated a special part of Appalachia. We want to thank those musicians that played and brought us a special segment of Appalachian heritage and culture and how grand it was. We want to thank the many friends and neighbors along the Blue Ridge Parkway that contributed. And if you'll look in the back of your program, those of you that got one, and we apologize for that because we didn't expect such a turnout today. But if you'll see there, there's all listed, and we thank each and every one of them. I want to say a special thanks to those people behind the scenes, the employees of the Blue Ridge Parkway. They are the ones that did really make today the success that it is, along with the 50th Anniversary Planning Committee that helped us. But these people really came forth and did the job that is so typical of National Park Service employees. The rangers that helped you into this area today, that have helped you, that are helping you out, that give you the information, that made your visit safe and pleasant and enjoyable. And those many maintenance employees that worked hard and toiled along to make the Blue Ridge Parkway the example that it is as you drove in today. The beautiful place that's free of litter, free of impacts that would certainly detract from your visit. Everything that looks right and in its place, and that's the way it should be in a national park. We want to thank the clerical people that manned the desk over here and hopefully got everybody registered, got your names, because we think that's going to be important to us to the future. And those people that are not seen here today, but are even further behind the scenes, that are in the offices manning the phones, that are there taking care of the purchase orders so that we could have all the things that we have here today and issuing the contracts. They and all of those people certainly made these things possible, and ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thanks to each and every one of them, past and present, that have done the job that they've done on the Parkway, not only for me, but these other superintendents. And they're the people that certainly deserve the credit for this today. I want to especially recognize and have another walk forward, and that's Jim Ryan. Jim is the guy that has joined the Blue Ridge Parkway about a year ago. We were certainly glad and pleased, and it was a great pleasure to have him come on our team. But he's the guy that we laid the burden of this 50th anniversary celebration on. And I think, ladies and gentlemen, today is the proof of the pudding that the job has been done tremendously. And Jim Ryan and a young lady that's somewhere here, Karen Grant, where are you? This young lady is a student at Western Carolina University. Jim Ryan had the foresight and the arm twisting enough to get us to hire her, and I don't know why we would have done it otherwise. But she's going to be returning to school to finish her senior year and hopefully to look for a career in the television media business. And I think this experience this summer is going to certainly do her well. So ladies and gentlemen, join me in giving a great round of applause for two people that deserve all the credit. Today you shared in a quite a stirring historical background and information here from this great group of people setting up here that we all certainly appreciate. I hope you see the importance of our history. And I think as you think, today was once yesterday's tomorrow. And as we look back and reflect on the many wonderful and marvelous accomplishments, and as we feel proud, and as we feel great pride, let's also look to the future. The completion of the Parkway in 1987 will see the end of one era, but it's certainly going to see the beginning of a new era. And those of you that were here and heard Director Bill Mott talk about the challenges, the opportunities